Hello there, fellow cultists. This is DM Nell, and I'm back with another episode of Shadow the Demon Lord Talk. This is episode 73, and we will be talking about equipment in this episode. But before we get started, I wanted to go ahead and just pimp myself a little bit. As you know, I've mentioned this pretty much in every video. I do these videos so that we can grow the Shadow the Demon Lord community. There's my little contribution, and basically want to draw people in with these videos so that they have some resource to check on this game to see if it's something that might be their jam or not. And most likely, most sensible people will realize that this game is far superior than any other role-playing game out there. So that's why these videos are important to me, and in order for these videos to get out in the wild, they need to have views. They need to have people watching them, and they need to be able to come up in search engines. So that's why I ask for you all to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or leave a comment or something of that effect. Subscribe if you want, but some sort of interaction with the videos in order to bump them up on the scale of importance when somebody does a search for Shadow the Demon Lord. So I ask for you all to do that, and that will help get these videos a little bit more prominence when somebody is looking for Shadow the Demon Lord content. It is working. I have seen my videos come up when I do a Shadow the Demon Lord feed, so I appreciate the interaction that you all have done so far. I just ask that you keep it up and do so with every video that I produce. All right, having said all that, let's go ahead and jump into this week's topic. Now, this week's topic is equipment. So why am I talking about equipment? Seems kind of like a boring topic. But I will tell you this, different role-playing games handle equipment differently. But there's one thing that I have learned from experience, and that is that players love loot. They love treasure, they love money, they love stuff. They love adding stuff to their character sheets. They don't like removing stuff from their character sheets. And just the acquisition of things is just an integral part of the role-playing experience, again, from my perspective. Others may disagree, and that's cool, but, from the people that I played with, they like getting stuff. So stuff is pretty important, and stuff kind of falls under the general category of equipment. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time with this video just talking about the different equipment options that are available in Shadow the Demon Lord, and there are a lot. Comparatively speaking to other role-playing systems, this system provides a lot of equipment options. So I wanted to kind of go through this and let you all know what's available out there. So first of all, the core rulebook. Now, the core rulebook on page 99 has the equipment section. And this is all the basics that you would need for, starting and running a game. But there's more beyond this, which we'll get to in a minute. But starting with the equipment section, it talks about the various things pertaining to equipment, starting with prices and the monetary system. This is pretty important because you need to know how to be able to spend money and all that stuff. So this is, of course, assuming that you're running a Shadow the Demon Lord game in a world where money still matters. Now, of course, Shadow the Demon Lord is a world that is entering its apocalypse. And so at a certain point, money is going to be unimportant, and survival is going to be more important. But as long as you are still running with a monetary system, then you're going to need to know what the exchange rate is. So for Shadow the Demon Lord, you start off with the bit. Now, a bit is basically a copper penny that has been segmented into smaller parts, which they call bits. So 10 bits equals 1 copper penny. And going up from there and this is in units of 10. So 10 bits equals 1 copper penny. 10 copper pennies equals 1 silver shilling. 10 silver shillings equals 1 gold crown. And that's pretty much where the system stops. I mean, you have other games that have platinum or electrum or fancier currency, but as far as Shadow of the Demon Lord goes, you go from bits to gold crowns. And that's the monetary system. Now, gold is pretty rare, so the standard unit of currency is a silver shilling. So that's basically your dollar, or your dollars, I should say. I kind of equate a silver shilling to something that would cost maybe $10 or so. But it's really hard to put a real world value to these exchange rates. So, you kind of have to eyeball that yourself just to make it make sense. But just keep in mind that gold is rare. Silver shillings are the more common currency. And then copper pennies are, basically what poor people use. And bits are what really poor people use. So there are other commodities, gemstones, jewelry, promissory notes, deeds, titles, all those things can be used, trade goods, things like that. But as far as actual money goes, that's the monetary system. All right, as far as equipment goes, you have rarity or availability ratings, starting with common, going to uncommon. Uncommon items require specialized training to produce and are thus available only in communities with populations of 1,000 or more. So if you're looking for an uncommon item, you're going to have to go to a small town that has at least 1,000 people. Common items you can pretty much find anywhere. Okay, now you get to the rare. Rare items are made from expensive materials and require skilled craftsmanship and are available in communities and populations of 5,000 or more. So you have to go to a larger town or city in order to find those. And then exotic items tend to be things of a magical nature made from unusual materials or require advanced and specialized training. These items can be found in communities with populations of 10,000 or more. So you're actually going to have to go to a fairly largeable city, fairly large city or sizable city. And so for exotic items. All right, carrying limits. You can kind of gloss over carrying limits, but the rules for carrying limits are here if you want to pay attention to that level of detail. I generally don't, but if you want to, that section is there. I'm going to skim over that right now. Talks about clothing and accessories, coins and gems, and then containers. So just, you can read that if you're interested in that sort of gameplay. It's a little bit more detailed than I'm interested in. All right, living expenses is a way to make sure that your players feel like they're in a real world. So in between adventures, you actually have to pay a living expense based on how you want to live. If you want to live destitute, in a destitute manner, and destitute manner is described down here. Basically, you live on the streets or in the wilderness. You struggle to get by, go without shelter and food for days, and have a miserable existence. So that's destitute, and you don't have to pay anything for that. If you want to be poor or live a poor lifestyle, then you pay 2 copper pieces, and you are living in squalid conditions, possibly in a tiny rented room shared with others, and survive on meager stores. At the start of the adventure, make a strength challenge roll. On a failure, you lose 1 object worth 1 silver shilling or more. If you have no objects to lose, you instead become diseased, as described under destitute. So I didn't read that in destitute, but basically, there's consequences for living the lifestyle that you want to live. There's also benefits for living it as you get higher here. So as you get to getting by, you earn enough to make ends meet. You likely have rented a room or a small hovel in a poorer part of the community. Comfortable is 2 silver shillings. You live well enough and you have enough to cover all of your living expenses. At the start of the adventure, make an intellect challenge roll with 1 bane. On success, you save up to 1d6 copper pieces. So you actually start saving some money when you are comfortable. Wealthy costs you 1 gold crown, and when you're wealthy, you enjoy many of the finer things in life, having enough wealth to live in a fine house, have nice clothes, and enjoy a status that opens doors to the rich and powerful. At the start of the adventure, make an intellect challenge roll. On a success, you save up to 1d6 silver shillings. And then, as a rich person, that costs you 2 gold crowns or more, you live in luxury, probably have a townhouse or an estate in the country with servants and attendants, and every comfort provided. At the start of the adventure, make an intellect challenge roll. On a success, you save up to 2d6 silver shillings. Okay, so that is how you handle your lifestyle basically in between adventures. Of course, when you're on adventures, you typically don't stay or visit your own place. You go out in the world. So this is handled basically in between adventures. So just to give you the guidelines here, starting characters determine their lifestyles randomly by rolling the dice. When you finish the adventure, you remain at that lifestyle during your first adventure. When you finish the adventure, you must buy another lifestyle. The benefits or drawbacks of the new lifestyle last until the end of the next adventure, at which point you must pay for your living expenses to remain at your current lifestyle, or pay the expenses for a different lifestyle. So this goes by adventure. And in my campaign anyway, an adventure can be a series of connected, ongoing adventures, or it could be standalone adventures that represent a level. So it really is going to be different based on how you're running your game. If you're running an ongoing game, then it's going to be difficult to determine when they have to make this payout. And I would just suggest when you level them up, that's when they make their living expense choice. You could skip this entire thing if you're doing an ongoing, continuous adventure that is kind of like Lord of the Rings, where they're just constantly on the go. Then you can forego this living expense thing altogether and not even worry about it, because they're not staying in one place. They are constantly on the move, and so paying a living expense doesn't really make sense. But if you have downtime in between adventures, or as you are adventuring through your ongoing campaign, and you're pretty much staying in civilization, then you can impose a living expense just to make sure that the players understand and feel the weight of what it's like to live in a world where, in order to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, to have a place to sleep, to have a place to stay when the weather's bad, you need to pay for that. And that would come under living expenses. Okay, so enough of that. Armor and clothing is the next section, and I'm kind of just going to gloss over those, but it talks about the various types of armor that are available, starting with clothing, which require no strength requirements. And you have 2 types of clothing. You have clothing, which would be cloth for the most part, and then you have soft leather. Soft leather does provide you a defense bonus of +1 in addition to your agility, which agility is your default defense. So when you're wearing clothing, you only get your agility. But when you're wearing soft leather, you get your agility +1. The next category is light armor, which requires strength 11 or higher to don, which means that you have, or not to don, but to use effectively. These, but if you want to wear them without penalty, then it requires strength 11 or higher. Hard leather gives you a defense bonus of agility +2, and then brigandine is just a flat 13 defense. So what is brigandine? Brigandine armor is clothing reinforced with metal strips between layers of leather or fitted with metal studs. It typically consists of long sleeve coat with greaves for the legs. So this could be hard leather, it could be kind of brigandine-ish, but there's not really a good depiction of brigandine armor. You could probably look it up. But I think you get an idea just basically from the description. It's pretty much just clothing with reinforced parts. Then you have clothing Everybody knows what clothing is. And then the next section is medium armor, which requires strength of 13 or higher. Medium armor starts with mail and includes scale. Mail gives you a flat defense of 15. Scale gives you a flat defense of 16. So you have your mail, which is woven. Wow, I'm really mashing words together today. So mail is a woven mesh of metal loops or rings worn over padded clothing. The armor includes a hood, sleeve, shirt, and leggings. It also comes with a helmet. So that's what mail looks like. And then scale is a woven mesh of scale metal or small metal scales. It covers the torso, arms, and lower body. The suit also includes a helmet. Then the last category is heavy armor. Heavy armor requires strength of 15 or higher and includes plate and mail or full plate. So plate and mail. This is a full suit of mail, which is reinforced with metal plates, bands, or splints. Such armor includes a breastplate, greaves, guards, and other components worn over mail, and a padded undergarment. It includes a full helmet. So that kind of gives me, impressions of like the Mandalorian. Although you don't really see any mail under the Mandalorian's armor. It could be under the padded section, but that's kind of what I have when I picture plate and mail. But that's just me. And Mandalorian's, future. So there's that. But anyway, then you got full plate. So full plate is this armor protects the body with large metal plates, bands, or splints worn over mail and padding. The suit includes a breastplate, greaves, guards, and helmet. I think everybody can easily picture what a suit of plate armor looks like. This is scale armor down here, incidentally. All right, so that's the armor section. Oh, and plate and mail gives you flat 17 defense, and full plate gives you a flat 18 defense. Of course, these are pretty good defense scores, and you pay for that. You get plate and mail for 5 gold crowns, and you have to buy it someplace where you can purchase rare items. And then full plate costs 25 gold crowns, and you have to be someplace that you can purchase exotic items. All right, moving on. We go to the weapons section, and weapons, you find a great deal of information here regarding the different properties, how the weapons are used, what type of damage they use, what materials they can be made of, that sort of thing. And so this is a pretty extensive part of this section. I'm not going to read through it all, but it definitely helps you understand how the different weapons work and the game effects that they have. So for example, a cumbersome weapon, like a great weapon would be a cumbersome weapon, a great axe or a great sword. When you attack with this weapon, you make the attack roll with 1 bane. So yeah, it probably does a pretty, and it does do a significant amount of damage, but the cost of that is that you have to make the attack rolls with 1 bane. Conversely, you have finesse weapons. You can make a strength attack roll or an agility attack roll for attacks using this weapon. So you can use either your strength or your agility with a finesse weapon. You have ranged weapons, reload weapons, size 1 weapons, uses, and thrown, whether the weapon can be thrown or not. Weapons for larger creatures are also described here. So there are certain ancestries that you can run, such as a Jotun, which would allow them to use larger weapons. So a weapon for a larger creature is explained in this section right here. So you want to give that a read through if that applies to your game. Ammunition is the default rules for ammunition here, as well as the prices. But tracking ammunition is kind of important, so there's a couple different ways to do it. The importance of tracking ammunition varies from group to group. Check with your GM. But you have ammunition recovery. When using ammunition other than bullets, you can recover about half of all projectiles used. That's just kind of hand waving it, saying that you get half your ammo back after you use it. And then the abstract system is that you're assuming to have enough ammunition to use your ranged weapon up to 5 times. After that, whenever you attack with a weapon that uses ammunition and the total of your roll is 0 or less, you run out. So for that weapon, and you cannot make range attacks with the weapon until you replenish your stores. So this is kind of more of an abstract. It allows you to not have to count your ammunition. Some people like counting their ammunition, some people don't. So using the abstract system would be helpful for those folks versus the counting your arrows and such using the ammunition recovery. Now for bullets, you definitely have to count those because bullets are more expensive, and you have to purchase those as you use them up. And they do a lot of damage too. That's why. All right, so moving on. Improvised weapons. So this section just talks about picking up a chair or using a coffee mug or a stein or whatever as a weapon. And it tells you on this chart whether, if it's a offhand use or a one-hand use or two-handed use, and how much damage you do with the improvised weapons. So this allows you to have a barroom brawl without ever having to draw a sword. You can just use tables, chairs, wine bottles, mugs, and stuff like that. Just using the improvised weapon rule here. All right, adventuring gear. Adventuring gear is the different stuff that your adventurers use on their adventures to help make things easier for them. So this includes things like candles, lanterns, matches, oil, and that sort of stuff. You also have bundles. So for an adventure pack, that includes basically a backpack, bedroll, cutlery set, tinder box, 3 torches, a coil, a rope, and so on and so forth. So here are the different tables. You have one for personal gear. You have a table for clothing and accessories. You have a table for tools, and tools include things like alchemist kit, block and tackle, a book, a crowbar, crystal ball, and so forth. So all of these things are in here so that when your characters are in a city, they want to spend the money that they found. This allows them to spend the money on different interesting items that could be useful. So for example, if you have a crowbar, using a crowbar will help you open doors, or make strength challenge rolls. So the crowbar grants 1 boon on strength challenge rolls made to open doors, containers, and other objects that can be opened or closed. So yeah, your character might want a crowbar if they are, going to be going into dungeons and having to force doors open. So these are just different things that they can pick up or they can find while they're adventuring. All right, moving on. Some of this stuff is a little bit more exotic, like poisons have several, 4 paragraphs, because poison use can be detrimental to the player. Or to the character. So you definitely have some rules here on how you can use poison on, applying it to a weapon or to, arrows or whatever. You have spyglass, toolkit, torturer's tools if you want to try to extract information using torture. These tools will help you do that, and there's some rules for that there as well. What it doesn't say is that you'll probably get some corruption by using torturer's tools, but that's kind of assumed. So GMs, heads up, if your characters purchase torturer's tools, then be ready to hand out that corruption. All right, food and accommodations. These charts here are handy for the GMs, are great for the GMs to keep handy for when they go into town and they want to hit some accommodations. Buy some food or, all that stuff. Animals and gear, again, if they want to buy a horse, mule, a pack mule, whatever. Hirelings. Hirelings don't get a whole lot of love, at least not in my games. And I think that's because we really haven't used hirelings since 1st edition D&D, and they kind of fell by the wayside in other editions, but I'm going to try to do better with that, because I think hirelings are interesting ways of incorporating not real world people, but people in the campaign world into the everyday life of your adventurers to make them real people, or to connect them to the world. And so you can hire a commoner. These are servants, torchbearers, laborers, grooms, just normal people, not particularly skilled, but they can hold a torch, or they can brush your horse, or they can carry a pack. So hiring a commoner costs you 8 copper pieces, or what is that, 5 copper pieces a week. No big whoop. Hiring a professional, that's like an alchemist or a blacksmith or a jeweler. If you want to hire one for making stuff for you that you find, if you find a suit of armor and you want a blacksmith to adjust it for you, you can keep one on retainer for 1 silver per week. And they can do the different types of work for you without actually just going in and having to pay a blacksmith for that type of work as a one-shot. And let me see if there is... no. So anyway, you can also use this as a guide to, if you want a blacksmith to alter some armor or whatever, you can say, well, they'll charge you a silver shilling if the work takes up to 1 week, and if it takes additional time, then it would, of course, multiply week over week. All right, then you have potions. Potions! Now this is what people like to spend their money on. And the book here has a number of potions, starting with alertness, antitoxin, fire resistance, fleeting youth, growth, healing, invisibility, panacea, and seeing. So obviously, potion of healing is probably what your players are going to be wanting to purchase for their characters the most. You've got, basically this clear magical liquid smells faintly of alcohol. When the potion takes effect, the creature heals damage equal to its healing rate. So they're going to be buying that left and right, but they may also want to purchase some of these others. Now, keep in mind the availability. Most of these potions are either rare or exotic, meaning that they have to be in a fairly large town or city in order to find somebody that sells these. So the only thing that can be found in a smaller place is, for uncommon availability, is the potion of healing. And I think that's just Rob Schwab being nice, because I would say that potion of healing is probably an exotic item in and of itself, but that's just me. I'm not changing this. Incidentally, it's going to be uncommon in my games as well. But, if you wanted to be a little bit more realistic about this, and as realistic as a fantasy game can be, I would say, the ability to heal somebody probably outweighs most of these other things for the average person. And so you would probably want to make that more difficult to find. But anyway, that's just me. So another thing is incantations. These are spells that have been scribed onto some sort of medium that allows people to purchase them to cast a spell. And the rules for doing that is here, as well as how you purchase them, where you can purchase them, and how much they cost. So that is the equipment section of the core rulebook. Now, you can play your game pretty completely with just the core rulebook, but if you're going into multiple campaigns and multiple adventures and that sort of thing like I do, then you'll want a little bit more. So I will point you now in the direction of the Demon Lord's Companion. And the Demon Lord's Companion is a fantastic supplement, actually one of my essentials, that provides additional things for your game that really could have and should have been included in the core rulebook if the initial Kickstarter would have allowed for it. But since it didn't, then it was put out as a supplement. But all of this stuff basically fits well in the core rulebook. All right, so going to the equipment section here, it's chapter 3. This includes additional types of more exotic things, such as alchemical items. You can find things such as all flower water. What is all flower water? Made from the distillation of cow dung, all flower water is a curative alchemists swear by. You can use an action to drink this liquid or administer it to a willing or defenseless creature within your reach. At the end of the round in which the liquid is consumed, roll a d6. On an odd number, the drinker heals 1 damage. On an even number, the drinker heals damage equal to its healing rate and removes the diseased affliction. So that's some pretty good stuff. You could also purchase bottled smoke, dragonfire. This is a volatile substance. Dragonfire is always contained in a clay pot sealed with lead. You can use an action to throw a pot of dragonfire to a point within short range. If thrown, the pot shatters when it impacts against a solid surface. Splashing fiery goo within a sphere with a radius of 2 yards. A creature that gets a success on agility challenge roll avoids the dragonfire. Anything that fails to avoid the dragonfire takes 2d6 damage and catches fire. All right, so this is some pretty cool stuff. This is a nice way to give a warrior something to do other than just hit with a sword. They can pull out a pot of dragonfire and toss it like a grenade. And, it's pretty cool. And so there you go. Moving on, Reagent. Contained in a steel vial, Reagent is a thin grade fluid. Counts as a potion for mixing potions. When you mix a potion with a reagent and the total is 10 or higher, you can add another potion to the mixture and replace the number with a 15. So mixing potions is listed elsewhere in this book, but that using a reagent allows you to combine the effects of 2 potions, which is pretty cool. Royal water, superior glue, water of life. All of these things are alchemical items. There's also some rules here in this little sidebar for creating equipment, if your character is interested in doing that. Then you have forbidden items. So you got forbidden magic. Why not forbidden items? This section gives you what you have been asking for, and you didn't even know you needed it. Forbidden items are items that just kind of make you squirm a little bit because they're just weird and awkward and uncomfortable. Take the azine, for example. An azine is a foot-long segmented worm with a toothy maw at one end, a dimpled sphincter at the other, and inch-long bristles sprouting from its hide. There are the stats for an azine. If you are a living creature, you can use an action to place the azine near one of your orifices. You take a d6 damage as it slithers through the opening to burrow into your body, where it lodges itself in your guts to feed on your excrement. The GM secretly rolls a d20 to determine how many days it lurks inside you. At the end of this time, the azine dies and erupts from your body in an explosive bowel movement that strikes with no warning. Now, why would somebody do this willingly? Well, while the creature is inside you, you can use an action to cause a toothed filament to spool out from the palms of each of your hands. Each filament functions as a whip until you can use an action to cause the filaments to retract. So, what movie was it? I think it was one of the Hellraiser movies where one of the demons had these whip type things come out of the palm of his hands. So that's the image that this evokes. But basically, if this would come in, where would this come in handy? I mean, really, why would anybody do this themselves? Well, I can see this almost coming in handy if you're going to some place that does not allow weapons. And you don't want to be caught without a weapon. So this would be one way to have a weapon embedded inside your body. And it would be basically a whip. But man, you're paying a high price for that. I can't imagine somebody doing that, willingly. But there you go. The option's there. Or this can also happen unwillingly if the DM wants to use this creature as a monster and attack somebody that happens to be sleeping naked or maybe with their mouth open or something. I don't know. Anyway, you've got that. So there's that. There's Death's Heralds, a white powdery substance contained inside a wax paper packet. Death's Heralds are made from the eggs of a rare Moth found in the underworld. You can use an action to attack with the powder by blowing the contents from the pack into the face of one living creature within short range of you. The target must get a success on a strength challenge roll made with 2 banes or become impaired for 1 minute. At the end of each round, the target is impaired in this way. It must get a success on a strength challenge roll or take a d6 damage from the hatching eggs and burrowing larvae. A creature incapacitated by the damage dies and its body vanishes. In addition, each time a creature takes damage from the Death's Heralds, a cloud of black moths spread out in a 1-yard radius from a spot in the creature's space. The cloud remains until the end of the next round. It heavily obscures the area. So that's interesting. Distilled Maiden's Tears, Frenzy, Lotus Petals, Love Potion, Lust, and Revenant's Head. That's this item right here. All these things are different forbidden items that can either be purchased or found, and they're all equally weird and disgusting, but great. All right. Then you have, Unicorn Horn. Then you have Marvels of Engineering. This is cool stuff that you can buy that's more like machinery or different types of weapons that require engineering, and the Engineering Guild in the city of Lidge produces much of the stuff. So you got a blunderbuss, which is pretty complicated. I haven't really used one in one of my games, but there's a lot to it. It's pretty dangerous, but can also do a fair bit of damage. So you got a blunderbuss, you've got bombs, you got clocker pocket watch, constructs, flares, smoke bombs, and a timer. So you can buy a bomb, put a timer on it. There you go. You can also create your own inventions, and here's a little sidebar on how to do that. So here's a potion table, here's a property table. So property includes castles, hovels, houses. So if your characters are looking to purchase actual property, then here's a table for that. And it's described. Each of these are described later in this book. Potions, here's some additional potions. You got agility potion, courage potion, cunning potion, might potion, mimic potion, phasing potion, shrinking potion, water breathing potion, weightlessness potion, and wings potion. And then here's that table about mixing potions that we talked about earlier. Some bad things can happen if you mix potions. Things can also be, work the way that you're anticipating. But if you are, if you roll badly, then all mixed potions create a fiery explosion in a sphere with a radius of 5 yards. Their other effects ends. Everything in the area takes 5d6 damage. Any creature that gets a success on an agility challenge roll takes half the damage instead. If the potion's mixed inside a creature, that creature cannot get a success on this agility challenge roll. So if you pour a bunch of potions down somebody's throat, it's going to explode, doing 5d6 damage to that creature. No save. All right, the next section is vehicles. You got a bunch of different vehicles here. This vehicle section is pretty extensive because it talks about how the vehicles can be used. They have their own stat block, and so it's basically a rules section in and of itself. Talks about how to do maneuvers, crashes, that sort of stuff. So this is a pretty good section to read if you plan on using vehicles extensively in your game. And then you have sample vehicles here. You have an airship, you have a cart, you have a locomotive, you have a riverboat or barge, you got a sailing ship, and you have a wagon. All right, so that is the equipment section of the Demon Lord's Companion. Now you might think that that is all that you get with this game. I mean, you got the core rulebook and you have the Demon Lord's Companion, and between the two you got a shitload of equipment. But wait, there's more. There was a supplement that was released a few years back in 2016, in fact, called Insupposable Instruments. And with this, you increase the amount of, let me shrink it a little bit so you can actually see it. There we go. You increase the number of different items that are available in the game. So this gives you more alchemical items, including Alchemist's Apron, Blinding Gas, Burgle Paste, Checkwood Resin, Dead Man's Bandage, Emboldening, Bauble, and so on. Then you go on to more forbidden items. Yes, in case the items that I just read to you weren't gruesome enough, you've got more forbidden items in this supplement. And of course, an equipment supplement would not be complete without additional potions, so you got 6 more potions to choose from here. And then you got actual additional adventuring gear and tools. So this gives you some more exotic stuff like bolas, chalk. Well, not exotic. Chalk isn't exotic, but it was missing from the original book. Let's see, cinder cloth, crampons, Death Dowser. Not really sure what that is. Death Dowser is a set of 2 long switch-like sticks or rods, each approximately 1 yard long. You can use an action while holding the sticks lightly in both hands to point the crossed rods in a direction, then slowly turn around. On a d6, a roll of 1 or a 6, the device works, and if there's a dead creature within short range, the sticks vibrate when pointed in the direction of it. Okay, so these are kind of like divining rods, only for finding dead people, which, I guess if you're a necromancer, then, or maybe, I'm not sure if it works on undead people. I'd have to read it more closely. It doesn't say undead people, but, undead people are dead, so I would assume so. But anyway, okay, what else? What else does this thing have? More marvels of engineering. So you got a clockwork limb, Helmer's boots of stilting. What else? Music box, rifle telescope, telescopic goggles, self-fastening armor. That's pretty cool. Scouting orb, also cool. All right, then you have the animal companion section. So if you're wanting to actually have an animal companion, then this section gives you the information for that. You have additional vehicles, and you have some additional property. Boarding room, large mansion, single bedroom home, small shack, all that stuff is listed here. This also gives you a section on owning a business. So if you are the type of player that wants to own and run your own business, this section is for you. You also have a wandering merchant table. So if you're on the road and you happen to come upon a wandering merchant, this table allows you to create some interesting and different types of merchants that you might encounter on the road. So awesome stuff here in this supplement. So you might think, well, that's got to be it, right? Well, almost. There's one more supplement that I want to point you to, and that is the oddities, artifacts, and esoterica. So with this supplement, it gives you various tables for different items. So if you're looking to populate your dungeon or your adventure with just random stuff, this is the supplement for you, Mr. DM. So you can roll for interesting things. You can roll for art and heirlooms. You can roll for books and scrolls. You can roll for clothing and accessories, and you can also roll on a table for consumables. Here's some minor magic, and then here's some pets. People independence, personal stuff, qualities, special ingredients, tools and devices, and weird stuff. All these things are very, very handy if you're just randomly, your characters kill a monster and they want to know what's in the room, and you're like, fuck if I know. You need to keep this supplement handy because you can roll on these tables and very quickly come up with a bunch of interesting things to put in a room that you didn't give any thought about putting anything in there before. So, odds, artifacts, and esoterica is a must for GMs. So you definitely want to pick that up. I also recommend Insupposable Instruments, and of course you better have the core rulebook and the Demon Lord's Companion, because those are just essential books. You cannot really play the game without those two. And you better pick them up today if you haven't already. But you should also pick up Insupposable. Just pick up all the things Schwab Entertainment. It's not a waste of your money. Trust me. It's good shit if you can afford it. And it's cheap stuff. So you should be able to afford it. But if you can't, that's okay. Anyway, I'm done. This is my Shadow Demon Lord talk number 73 for equipment. Hopefully this was for those those of you that are thinking about going into this game or have just started to scratch the surface of Shadow of the Demon Lord. Now you know the depths that this game goes into, that Robert Schwalb has built into this game system. So hopefully this is something you can use. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you on my next video. Until then, if I can find the stop recording button, until then, hail to the Demon Lord.